Excellent. Good evening, everyone. In fact, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, everyone, depending on which place you're joining this fireside chat from. We would be giving your another co-attendees few minutes to join in, and we'll kick off then. I've already been joined by two of my friends and esteemed speakers for today's fireside chat, and then we shall kick off very soon. Okay, so without much ado, thank you again for waiting, everyone. My name is Kaushal Bhatt, and I would be your host for today's fireside chat. I lead worldwide marketing and partnerships at Tatvic Analytics, a full stack Google marketing partner and a specialist in marketing technology. Okay, without much ado, as you all would have guessed it right, the topic for today's fireside chat, third-party cookies conundrum. Okay, I guess we've kind of got an amazing response and few hygienes. Most of you would be on mute for this next half an hour, and we would definitely open up the bridge towards the end of our chat for questions and answers. We've got tremendous response from all of you. While even registering, we've got a lot of questions already been asked. We will try to cover most of them through our discussions with our esteemed speakers today. However, in case if anything which is not addressed, we would definitely cover them when we would try to reach you personally starting next week. So starting with, of course, the topic. I guess all of us know this, right? Over the years, cookies have become the bread and butter for brands and publishers primarily to identify their users and serve them with personalized ads, right? But in the quest to build, of course, and however, as more and more users started demanding the greater privacy, choice, and control over their information, I mean, how their information is being used, the introduction of laws like European Union's General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, and e-privacy, which was introduced from California, was required definitely to meet users' demands, right? And in the quest to build a more private web, the search giant Google announced this year in January that they would announce a phased approach to eliminate third-party cookies on their Chrome browser by 2023. Yes, you guys heard it right. Earlier, it was to be phased out around 2022. However, as recent as yesterday evening, they've announced that they would delay this phase out until end of 2023. However, a lot of things won't change, right? And this announcement actually follows the measures such as Intelligent Tracking Protocol, ITP, taken by the other leading browsers such as Safari and Firefox from as far as back as you would recollect, around 2017. And what Google did was also announcing that they won't be building any alternate identifiers to third-party cookies to track the users, right? So the question remains, how will these industry changes impact your marketing strategies? What are some of the industry proposed solutions, their pros and cons? What roles your partners and technology stack can play in these, most importantly, in these changes? And how would you future-proof your business? Like, as I said, to answer these questions and get an expert's perspective on these industry-wide phenomena, I have invited two of industry's phenomenal thought leaders, and I really can't wait to get started. So please join me in welcoming Gagan Singla, Chief Digital Officer at HDFC Securities, and Vivek Pandey, Head of Revenue Strategies and Analytics at Times Internet. Right? Without much ado, of course, let's start first with both of you guys. And we wanted to have this as a more interactive forums rather than a Q&A to benefit out of this most. So the first question, Gagan, how do you see this entire data deprecation impact brands and advertisers, and largely the entire MarTech ecosystem. Your thoughts, Gagan?
Hi everyone. I hope I'm audible and clear.
Yes, you are, Gagan. Go ahead. Thank
So
you.
I would like to first of all add something to the introduction, as you said about cookies. Right? I think it is not only about privacy. Right? The
Right.
concept of cookies came into being in 1994 or around that, at the world of Netscape was there. Right? And at that time, browsing was only desktop and laptops.
Mhm.
And therefore it was all web. There were no mobiles, there was no internet on TV and so on. So the concept of cookies was built with a very older technology, and we have been using that since a very long time. Even otherwise, even without this whole discussion on privacy or with the discussion on privacy, there is a huge technology upgrade needed. And generally, a technology upgrade of something which is used by all players and all brands and all publishers and all technology companies, not easy to do every few years. It has to be done once in many years, once everybody is willing to now make a huge leap forward, and they have to make a lot of changes in their work. In my view, a lot of this is to do with the fact that technology upgrade is needed, and now users are looking at internet browsing from all places. Like they don't, I think people don't even use the word browsing, right? You're always on internet all the time. Right?
Right.
So how it will change? I think technology upgrade will obviously make things a lot more integrated. We will be able to look at users across the board. But rather than rather than looking at the whole users, now the whole world will move into understanding what they want. So the whole privacy thing will also kick in. We will not have access in any way to specific users, but we'll only have access to what they want. And once, as an advertiser or as a brand, you know what users want, and you can probably offer them the best personalization. Right? You can offer them the best service. You can offer them the best product. Right? So I see this moving into a very positive light. I see this moving into complete focus on offering services, offering products, offering personalization, everything from the based on what user want. Like in the past, if there has been any issue on privacy and users' data is available, and that actually also cuts the whole story short for people to directly target people, right? And which actually is not the right thing. Right? We should not target people. We should target what they want. We should target their behaviors. We should target what is good for them and what you are offering, which is good for them. So that way, it will also force us to target the right things. It will also do a technology upgrade in a big way, and it will also solve all the privacy issues in one. So in my view, this is like a landmark moment for the whole ad tech industry also, and it will actually change the whole game in terms of doing the right thing by all of us. A lot of this is fueled by both privacy and also the way consumers have now access to internet all across. So you can't go with a cookie like old technology anymore.
Excellent. And I guess, yeah, that's what even, I guess the thought has come, where rather than targeting users, target the interest that people have on your products and services. What a good thought. And of course, we've been fortunate to join by someone who could also share the alternate perspective. So Vivek, of course, represents one of the largest publishers network in India and represents moreover the sales side of the thought process, right? Vivek, what would be your thoughts on how this would primarily affect publishers?
Yeah, so I hope you guys can hear me.
Yes, very well, Vivek.
Okay, great. So three main points here, Kaushal. First is, of course, I think everybody is talking about it, which is first-party data, right? Goes without saying that the focus will now be more than ever that you're not going to get it from anybody else. You have to get it directly from the consumer. It is not going to be easy, but it will also, I think, help both publishers as well as brands focus on the consumer all the bit more, create hooks, create value propositions as to why they should share about themselves with you, right? Which would mean product pivots, which would mean UX changes, which could even mean, in the future to come, giving the value back to the consumer. A lot of research has shown that some consumers might even be willing to give their data away willingly if they are given a share in the pie. So that's going to be first, first party data, and numerous ways forward there, both for brands as well as publishers. Second is, I think, collaboration. Like we used to have in, I think, in any group, you have a friend circle in which usually there is somebody like Kaushal who is connecting everybody together, and everybody sort of just gets used to talking through Kaushal. Gagan is also talking to Kaushal, and I'm also talking to Kaushal. But what if suddenly Kaushal switches off his video and audio and disappears, right? I think that's what's going to happen. Me and Gagan will have no other option but to collaborate directly with each other and start building back that trust. So I think, with an intermediary role sort of getting diminished because of the third-party cookie and these ad IDs getting out of the way, I think brands and publishers will have to build a lot of direct relationships, will have to trust each other, and will have to create mechanisms of collaborating, trusting each other. Clean data rooms is one way, having shared DMPs is another way. There are multiple ways, and the challenge there would be that how do you do that without sort of privacy and things like GDPR, etc., and consent getting in the way. So I think that is the second area. How do you collaborate within the ambit of privacy and consent? And the third biggest one, is going to be alternate formats, which have been sort of just completely, people have been blindsided by, I think, addressability and audience targeting. I think it has taken up way too much mind share of everybody that this is the only way you can do programmatic, and this is the only way you can advertise. There was a world before addressability, and there will be a world after addressability. There, as a publisher, we believe that contextual targeting is going to pick up in a very big way. It used to be big, it is still big today. It is very similar to, I think, what Gagan was also saying in terms of interest-based, targeting of users. So largely, like what we do with TIL, we have our own Columbia ad serving engine, and we have the TIL DMP. What we do is that, we crawl all our 40+ content properties at all points in time, like the way any Google crawler would do. And we'll sort of aggregate that data, organized into sort of compartments of metadata and topics, and make that aggregation, those topics, those metadata, those interest areas available to advertisers to buy instead of having to buy the users directly. So that's where probably, Kaushal, I sort of rest my opening statement. Three major points, around collaboration, around first-party data, and around other formats of advertising, seeing a resurgence, so to speak, largely contextual and interest-based.
Very, very, very well concluded, Vivek, in terms of not only what would be the impact, however, but you very well summed up the way forward for marketeers, and that could be at both the ends. In fact, the context, how context would kind of overcome the challenge that personalization would face, and moreover, the importance of collaboration. Very well put forward thought. So that also brings me to, there are already certain solutions which has been floating around, right? Likes of, say, Google's Flock, or say UID 2.0 or pixel syncing, etc. Rather kind of a solutions which has been floating around. Of course, with the recent announcement, in fact, Google itself has delayed the privacy sandbox even to the end of 2023. But if I have to ask, right, how would, as an advertiser, or even, this question I guess applies to both of you, how would one evaluate the solutions which is available in the market? And earlier, I understand that there was a rush when everyone were looking at an early 2022 to kind of start rather posing up against this challenge. But now we've got kind of an extra time now to kind of evaluate whatever solutions which has been available to us. But if you, as industry leaders or as someone who heads your organizations, right, in terms of what would be your guidance in how would you evaluate solutions which is available in the market, or something which would now come up more? And if one has to prioritize amongst these, what would be their approach? Gagan, your thoughts?
See, in my view, right now, it is very difficult to have a very strong view on which solution is good, bad, or which solution will give a good value and so on. But I guess assuming all the solutions will be fully compliant and follow all the expectations and laws, uh, for me, since I have always looked at consumer business, retail business as my core, I think whatever is more adopted across larger number of players in the ad tech business, and the standardization is stronger wherever. That is what matters first, right? Because if you are not able to connect with all the users and find the right data points about their behaviors, so standardization is critical here. I think one of the success of cookies has also been because of their standardization across. Everyone has been using them the way they are. So the way standardization will go will be very critical. Obviously, the second big thing, or the equally big thing, is the quality of depth and accuracy you get in terms of your targeting. Right? Being an advertiser, I still think like that, like targeting of accuracy. Right? We should not have targeting which is very heuristic, but more accurate, so that we are giving the right offering and the right offering to the audience. Except that, obviously, we look forward to seamless integrations. I think that is critical. I am of the view that these things will evolve very fast. After the first set of things will get launched in 22 or 23, and however thing will unfold, I don't know. But I think there will be a lot of evolution which will happen every 6 months, every 9 months, right? Because it is a new thing. So I'm very
True.
confident that this evolution will happen, and therefore we need to have things which are very seamlessly useful, and we do not need at our end a lot of time and effort to start using the technologies which are available. And once when the evolution happens and some kind of standardization starts coming in, and there are clear leaders and so on, and then we will have a little bit of settlement. A typical cycle of a new technology evolving. I think that will also be important to see.
Totally agree. And you're right. Like I guess initially there was a duration which was less, and a lot of people not had a chance to even evaluate the solutions which were there in the market. They started implying them and adapting their systems or their frameworks around whatever which was being made available to them. With now the recent announcement, I guess people would have time to think, evaluate, and then decide what solutions would really work in their environment more, right? But my question, Vivek, to you would be slightly in a different way, rather. So I'm sure you would, as publisher, I mean, which is majority of course, the Times Internet's business, and then there are a lot of other businesses which are also consumer facing, right? If would there be a kind of a framework or an approach that you would be following when you want to prioritize these various solutions which would be made available to, of course, organization like yours? And one more important thing, how would you drive this as change across the organization, right? I mean, any approach that you guys have already thought of in terms of forming a separate, say, PMO team or a team which would drive initiatives across the board? I mean, what are your thoughts? What's the approach that you're taking, Vivek?
So very good question, Kaushal, and I'll take the second part first. We have created a central group of experts, a program management office that is dedicated to following these developments and coordinating across all business units as to what our concerted approach has to be. Because we as a company, while there's a lot of independence with that businesses have in terms of their strategies and in terms of their tech stacks, but because our ad tech stack is sort of unified and connects all the businesses together, so specifically to ad tech, the decision has to be a little bit more centralized than what we would otherwise do. So that's the first point I wanted to put, that this decision is very different for us as compared to many other decisions. Like in 99 out of 100 decisions, Times Internet's businesses will largely take their own call. But this particular case is so unique because of our centralized ad tech stack, where all the data from all TL properties going into one DMP, and the Columbia ad server serving ads across all the businesses, which made it sort of necessitated it slightly against our DNA of not centralizing things too much, but having to set up a PMO in this case. We have set that PMO up, and to your first part of the question as to how do we see it panning out and what are the kind of things that we'll be doing across the businesses. I'll go back to exactly what Gagan said, that right now we are just looking at this whole madness out there, if I were to use that word, and we are just sort of sitting in one place and telling you guys, but just please figure it out, right? And let us know what's going to be the future, right? As we speak, I think there are more than 70 different solutions. Of course, in your slide you have mentioned the major ones, but if you count all the startups and innovators and all the agencies, in-house solutions, there are more than 70 different solutions trying to solve for addressability. Now, in an academic setting, usually you have peer-reviewed journals, and you have experts, and ultimately the best idea or the best algorithm basis some parameters will win. But as you have put in your slide, this is an industry solution. So here we don't think that a solution that is technically the best or theoretically the best will eventually win. I think in this case, the right answer is going to be decided by who is giving that answer, right? So that's where I think admit it or not, we are all most of us are looking at Google, because I think you in the beginning of the chat you called them a search company. I don't think they of course they were a search company to begin with, but we all know they're an advertising company, right? So and the amount of heft that they have in the market, I think largely it's what solution they come up with. And the state that we have been working, as I said, our PMO has been working very closely with dedicated sort of teams from Google, periodically meeting and sort of setting up agenda and action items with them. Full credit to them that they're working very, very hard. But honestly, what we have figured out is that it's like a Pandora's box that has been opened. I'm not sure whether they understood themselves, whether they'll be able to resolve so much of stuff in a limited period of time. And they themselves have probably realized it's going to take them a lot of time, right? So many birds and flocks are out there. There's a pigeon, and there is a first-party data set, and then there is a trusted token API, and there is a whole lot of stuff, right? So I think, if I may say so, there may have been a little bit of underestimation on their part as well as to how much they'll be able to achieve, which I think has been corrected now. A revised date has been given. And broadly, I think that's the biggest answer all of us will look forward to, the flock and the whole Google ecosystem. Other than that, it's the whole trade desk thing that's going on, UID 2.0, and the alliance that they're trying with Prebid, and trying to make it like a co-owned, a community-owned, open source kind of a model. That will also have its life. So we believe that the steady state would be that, like EBDA and header bidding have sort of Prebid have sort of coexisted. In the same way, I think there will be a Google-driven side of it, and then there'll be an open source side of it. And both Gagan and I would be supporting both technologies. I think with a relative amount of shared difference between them. So that's how we see it panning out, Kaushal, in terms of the solutions on the table.
Perfect. I guess, yeah, you being in your answer to even your approach sounds very cautious, and like a lot of your other industry peers would be as well. Just a second. Yeah. So now, as probably if as an organization, when you guys started, I guess this announcement of Google just came in Jan 2021. However, browsers such as Safari, so Apple Safari and Firefox also already started taking these measures in place, right? Keeping into consideration the privacy. If organizations, I'm sure, have already started taking certain steps in place, right? But if you would want to advise, probably like both of you from your standpoint, if they want to, if your industry peer wants to assess their organization's readiness towards how this phenomena would unfold and how much these guys are ready to it, or how much their organizations are ready to that, what is kind of an assessment that they should follow? Like, how would they assess that? We, of course, wanted to hear from your thoughts on those. This time, let's start with Vivek. What would be like not only your advice to, of course, your industry peers, marketeers, but well before that, if they have to take a step back and think about it, that if they want to assess their readiness to this entire phase out phenomenon, how would they assess that preparedness or a readiness to this situation?
So Kaushal, I think that's a little bit unfair. You have asked me first. Up till now, I was just waiting ki whatever Gagan will say, I'll take the lead and then I'll follow up on that. But this puts me in a spot. So no, it was jokes apart. I think I think the biggest the advice would be slightly different, Kaushal, depending upon the size of the company. We can all talk about first party data and data collaborations and so on and so forth. Not everybody will be able to afford that, right? Not everybody will be able to sort of invest in that sort of a thing. The Unilevers of the world and the Group M's of the world and the Googles of the world may be able to sort of go on their own and build something out of their own. But I think there'll be a threshold, and I think every brand or publisher has to realistically accept that where you are in the continuum, right? Are you somebody who is going to influence the ecosystem? Are you somebody who's going to try to build your own private ecosystem? Or are you somebody who's going to find a place in this ecosystem, right? So first step is, I think, to figure that out, that where you are and accept the reality. If you are a large, so let me first address the large business, like maybe like TIR, the business that Gagan runs, or all the big guys out there, right? For them, I think the biggest thing is first party data, right? I mean, nothing beats that. And you do that as much as possible, right? And then of course, trying to do partnerships, as I said in the first part. I'm sure all of us are already doing that, trying to talk to various people that can I partner with you on this, and can I partner with you on that. So I think for the bigger guys, first party data and partnerships should be the biggest focus area, while these standard solutions are panning out. For the mid to small guys, I would recommend that they'll have to probably take a bet that the most likely steady state outcome will be again, if I'll go out on a leg and just say that, will most likely be a Google defined setup, and it's not going to be zero, right? Google will have a very strong role to play. It could be 60%, it could be 80%, it could be 40%, but they'll be big. And most of the small to mid guys, revenues are dependent on the ad exchange, and for good or for bad, that's the reality. So I think for the smaller and medium brands, I think it's very important to accept the fact that 2021 or 2023, there will be a time where there will be no cookies. There will be a time where there will be no conversion callbacks coming to you. You will have to live with Flock. You will have to live with conversion APIs. Start readying up your tech stack for that, right? Change your sort of ad ops configurations, change your products in a way, and I think invest firstly in that sort of the privacy sandbox. Once that is sorted, and you are pretty confident that when that happens, you are in a good shape for that, then maybe if time permits, you get into alternate solutions beyond the privacy sandbox on a UID2 or this and that. But I think the craziest thing to do at this stage would be that you are a mid to small company and you are telling your people to go explore these 10 options, right? That I would strictly caution people not to do, because by doing that, you're just going to waste more time, and 2023 will just just come like that. It doesn't go to 2 years will just fly by very fast. So don't hedge your bets too much. I will probably stick with that.
Agree. Yeah, and in fact, even before you would have thought of it, right? 2022 would have been on our head in just 6 months from now, right? Okay, Gagan, your thoughts. I mean, what advice that would you like to give to your peers? And in fact, you played in the past a role of a marketing, rather martech specialist a lot, right? I mean, if someone has to think about accessing their tech side, how would they do it? Like as a company, I want to look at, I guess Vivek used the very right word. Where do they stand in the entire continuum, right? The huge gamut of it. If you would want to advise your industry peers, what would be that? Gagan, and what framework or how would they assess? Yeah.
Okay. No, I see there is a couple of things there. Like one is about companies like financial services. Right? In a company like us, in the current state, the impact and readiness is not that big a problem, because a lot of it we work on various ad platforms with various partners. And as the publishers and the ad tech platforms are preparing, I think some of this is happening as it goes on, and we are an advertiser who works with them. I think we will see some amount of changes in the channel mix, in which channels and retargeting like channels will become smaller and so on for the digital advertising. But the more and more we go into more in our industry, what we call fintech, or the more we go closer to an e-commerce like setup, right? So the way you have built your product architecture, if I look at a tech product, so let us go back to my 2013 Quicker days, right? So in my Quicker days, we had a very large e-commerce setup. Now, uh, you would also want to structure the product in a way that you can start getting more and more idea of the interests because there are no cookies. So now, so you will have to probably start thinking of some changes in capturing users' interests and be able to understand them better yourself directly. So whatever is the possibilities, your product pages will also give you some ideas. So what I'm trying to say is that some of the tech e-commerce companies will probably need to look at some of the way they look at their products, right? While for us, it is a matter of just looking at a channel mix, right? And start
Right.
working with publishers more closely, start working with our planning. And obviously, I think as Vivek said that audience targeting became so much of a hype and so on, because there has been a sales kind of a, so traditionally when there was no technology, it was always about calling, meeting people one to one, having a list of phone
Right.
numbers, list of people, list of leads, right? And when tech came in, it became contextual and so on. And then the moment audience came in, the same sales thinking again came back in. कि मुझे list मिल जाएगी लोगों की and I will just go after them, right? So that thinking came in back, which I think is good to go away, because the whole internet technology is more about understanding users, as I said earlier, behaviors and interests, right? So now we will be able to, so if anybody is using audience targeting too much, if anybody is using direct list upload too much, and many of those things they have to reduce, right? They have to start thinking of
True.
offerings and products, and there will always be this thing कि अगर you have a list of people and just target, right? So you need to, a lot of mindset
Right.
changes required in the way you advertise and sell, uh, that you are just not giving it a shot, right? There's this concept कि सबको try करके देखते हैं कोई तो लेगा, है ना? Without knowing कि उसका interest क्या है और उसका thought क्या है, उसको चाहिए क्या, है ना? So if some
True.
offering is made for younger, कहेंगे नहीं नहीं सबको try करके देखते हैं, है ना? And there will be some high level statement कि नहीं ये old भी ले सकता है. So what I'm saying is that we need to kind of get out of that and believe in these cohorts, and then start working with that. So that thinking pattern change is a big thing. And I think that will be the right way to use advertising technology.
Perfect thought. So if I'll have to summarize, in fact, the inputs which is coming out of both of you, and feel free to add to those. But what I could summarize based on our discussions, and thank you for sharing those thoughts, right? Ideally, as organizations, first start thinking of investing into first data strategy, right? Of course, that would vary from rightly what Vivek said, right? Depending on organization size, of course, how much investment that you want to make. Start building audiences. That is very important, right? Context even existed even prior to even cookies came in place, right? So if building that context, building your audience is extremely important. Of course, we all talked about transparency and consent mechanism. There are other ways you can still continue to collect information of users, right? Start providing the value exchange. Users still would come on your site, right? If you provide them the value, they would share their details. It could be in a form of a white paper, if we are talking, or kind of a content that they are actually looking to kind of consume, right? At the same time, accessing your tech site with a very different perspective, the perspective that you just shared, Gagan, right? In terms of how would they look into it. And most importantly, of all, nothing which should compromise on the customer experience. That would gonna stay, and it would always be there. It's the permanent, right? So with this thought, of course, I know we were kind of short of a time, and before concluding, I just wanted to quickly, all of you people, of course, we've been in touch with Vivek, Gagan, and this is just the beginning. We plan to have series of discussion in next 6-7 months to come. in this process, if you're looking at assessing your readiness and preparedness, of course, around the third-party phase out phenomena, please feel free to reach out to us at Tatvic. We have created a very comprehensive readiness assessment, which involves, or rather built on 6 key pillars around these, be it audience, the access, of course, the assets and ads, primarily the digital assets and ads, automation across the organization, and the attribution, right? Which definitely takes care of all 3 aspects, right? From how would you provide the experience, what would be, how much more contextual you can be, and finally the attribution. All of us are interested in knowing, or rather measuring, the effectiveness of our efforts, right? So through these assessments, we can certainly help you take there. And remember, we all are in this together, and together, I guess, we will all conquer. With this, of course, we have come down to the end of our fireside chat. I enjoyed interacting with both Vivek and Gagan. Now I'll open up floor for any questions and answers that we may have. So to all the attendees in the fireside chat, now the floor is open. If you have any questions, as I said, we tried accessing all your questions which you posed while registering for this event. We tried covering, I guess, with discussions with Vivek and Gagan, we tried covering most of those. And we would again get back to you at the soonest to address these queries if they were not addressed, for sure. Okay, I guess someone has raised the hand. Okay, there's a question. There is this question here, which is a little bit niche, and I'll open it to both of you, Vivek and Gagan. But it's kind of very niche, which it says, how will this entire change, if they want to drive, would affect the overall user interface across the platform, be it mobile web, or apps, of course, and how would they tailor-make their experience, keeping in mind these changes which is upon us? Gagan, would you like to take on that question?
See, this is actually a very tough question, right? It is. We are also learning as we go ahead, right? And but as you rightly said, that the amount of interactivity in the UI will drastically increase now, right? There was a very recent time, and you'll be surprised to know, when I was speaking to someone, I said, "This is how I'm designing our portal and where people will come and kind of do business with us." And this guy was like, no, what is a portal? Portal is just a brochure put in a website, right? Just put a brochure, people will read and go, right? So that kind of thinking I have seen, right? And very recently, like last 5 years. Right? So now that a lot of that will go away, right? Now we were talking about significant interactivity, because you don't depend upon third party, I said, right? So you will need to add more interactivity, more users to stay on your site. You will want, as I said, give more value. The more value you give to users, the more value they give back to you. The more experience you give to them, the more experience you also get with them. So that way, I think interactivity will increase. Value-driven UI will be higher, and not consumption-driven only, right? And some of that features should come in, and yeah, that's, as I said, learning across. These are the things which come to mind, top of mind, how it will change. I think there will be more structuring of the portals based on interest areas, maybe, rather than just a set of pages, right? And that will probably become better from a portal perspective or a UI perspective of a product, right? And there will be some amount of understanding of user interest. So I think that's what I can think of, and I will be happy to come back with more thoughts after a few months as I learn more about this.
And we would like to have then again organize a fireside chat with you, Gagan. Okay, one very specific question came, Vivek, and that's for you. We discussed about how small and medium enterprises might face difficulties or challenges, I mean, from the financial perspective in overcoming this challenge, right? So the question is, do they really need to solely rely on first-party data? Isn't this tough for them to do? What are the other options they have? What they should do, rather than only just relying on the first-party data option for the small and medium enterprises?
No, so as I said, right, so it's not a 0-1 situation. I think people misunderstand this also a bit, right? Nobody is saying that you won't have access to data, right? What your tools or vendors that you currently integrate with, your martech partners, your engagement partners that you use in your websites and apps today, so to power your UIs and your experiences, the only change that will happen is that they will not be interfacing with you at a specific user level, right? You will not be able to identify the user. And think of it, right? In any case, from a very theoretical standpoint, when this whole recommendation and personalization thing started, we all began to think as if it's like an economy of one, that every user will have their own UI, every user will have their own. But it doesn't really happen like that, right? If on Times Internet I have 600 million users, doesn't mean that I have 600 million different possible UIs to create. You can't create so many experiences. So at the end of the day, you were anyways doing a middle ground where you were sort of identifying cohorts, and then for a cohort of say 50,000 or 100,000, 1 million users, your UI would behave like this, and for another cohort of 2 million users, it will behave like that. So I think that is that whole approach that will mental adjustment will have to be required. That machine learning and recommendation and personalization, it's not about the economy of one. It's about cohorts. It's about common interest groups which are still going to be there. So everything stays the same. It's just that the unit of conversation between you and your supporting vendors becomes a community, a cohort, a flock, rather than just an individual. That is going to go away. So, and also I think from a lot of rules are getting created. Within few months, more will emerge. But what is really identifying a user and what is not really identifying a user? That is also something that's an ongoing discussion. Maybe we can just hope that some kind of an identification will finally be agreed upon. That yes, this is this is okay to sort of use, and still it is not identifying the user in some way. But that looks more like a distant possibility. I think the more realistic scenario is that start thinking all your personalization and recommendation and martech in terms of cohorts and flocks, and forget the individual. You don't need to bother about the individual essentially, right?
Perfect. Thank you once again, Vivek and Gagan, for answering some of the questions. I could still see a few questions, however, we are really running short of time. So we would definitely try addressing those when we would reach out to each and every one of you, of course. Like as I said, this is just the beginning, and I thank Vivek and Gagan to help us start this journey, a journey of discussion, which all of us have to together conquer, right? And we look forward to organizing similar set of discussions in the future. We will definitely keep everyone posted on similar fireside chats or webinars that we would be holding in months to come, and look forward to again sharing these, of course, discussions with Gagan, Vivek, and all our other industry peers as well. Thank you once again to each and every one of you for joining this fireside chat. Whoever has attended, registered, like as I said, we would definitely get back to you. On the screen, I've been showing the numbers and the emails that you can reach out to us. And we look forward to staying in touch and hearing from you. Vivek, Gagan, thank you once again. And I wish all of you a great weekend. Thank you.
Thanks to you, Kaushal, and to the Tatvic team. And thanks to Vivek for such a great discussion. I think I learned a lot today. Thanks to the audience for patiently bearing with us.
Thank you. Everyone, have an amazing weekend and look forward to staying in touch. Bye-bye.